Hey, what's up? It's Nick, and we're back. Super excited. James and I hopped back into the studio, and I don't know, we just felt like recording another pod. So I'm sure you all will love it. I think it's been like almost 2 years, and we just catch up about life, catch up about design, kind of what we've been up to. I think this is going to be a more regular thing, so it's fun to be back. You'll have to bear with us. We're still kind of dialing in audio and video quality, so I'm not entirely sure how it's going to pan out, but should be good. Also, big thank you to our sponsor for this episode, Gravity Sketch. You all know I love Gravity Sketch. I use it all the time in my design process. And Gravity Sketch is a company based out of London that is focused on creating tools for designers. Their big tool right now is virtual reality sketching software or 3D modeling software. And, I think as designers making 3D things for the physical world, sometimes designing 3D things on a 2D screen with mouse and keyboard just doesn't cut it. So using virtual reality is a game changer. I love Gravity Sketch. I use it for sketching up ideas, 3D modeling ideas. I even print out those ideas a lot or render them, and it turns out amazing. And once you learn the tool, you can really pump out ideas quickly, so much faster than any traditional CAD software. We have a link down in the description. Go and check out their website if you've never seen their software. It's amazing stuff. And, if you do know about their software, still check it out. It gives us a good referral. So they also have a conference coming up called the Round Conference, November 9th through the 11th. Make sure you're following them on Instagram because that's where they'll post updates about that. Also, I guess, shout out the usual things. Check us out on the website. We got all links to the socials and stuff. We'll probably be redoing a little bit of that, figuring out the new strategy for marketing the podcast and things like that. But yeah, if you have a question, feel free to email that in. And then gotta thank KYOSHY the Kid for the sweet intro and outro. All right, let's play it. Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
And we're two designers in the big city.
Sweating the small stuff.
Oh, man, James. What happened? We get jump in a time machine or something?
Yeah, it's a time warp. Let's do it again.
It's been a bit.
It has been a bit.
Yeah, we have zero excuses, but.
No. I think people still think that I live in LA.
Yeah, that's some news. I mean, we got 2 years of news to catch up on.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know how many products have been released since then. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah. No, I'm back in New York City.
You're a New York boy. You've been back for a good bit, too.
We were literally in Los Angeles for a year.
Okay.
Basically, and moved back.
And that was we had done a few Skype Zoom podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, that
was 2 years ago.
We were detailing out an entire LA office for Minor Details, with all the money that we made off of the first 94 episodes or whatever, we were really expanding and growing. It was a very
small office.
But we had
a cardboard box, actually.
Yeah.
That's all we could afford.
We had to do, with the economy the way it is, I had to come back to New York so we could reduce back to one studio. No, I mean, you had left. We had left
to just have a little more space to raise the family.
More space, closer to family.
Yeah, and that time you were freelancing.
Yeah, but the intent was to get to LA, start networking, and find a place to go full time. And a month later, this thing, have you heard of COVID-19?
Oh, wait, I didn't know you moved before COVID happened.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was literally a month before.
Right.
And we had
that makes sense.
And after that first month there, we finally got our apartment, we were settling in, and then we really got familiar with that place.
Right. It's you were ready to go out and mingle and meet people and network, and then it's uh-oh.
I mean, the thing is, Allison was pregnant at the time, so like there wasn't going to be a lot of mingling anyway once the baby was born, and I took a couple months off work, just to I mean, those first couple of months are, it's tough, and it's
not sleeping at all.
Yeah.
How many hours of sleep you get?
It was a lot of like waking throughout the night and things like that. But yeah, I mean, like the job thing got pushed to the side for a while, and it was like, okay, we'll see where things are at in a couple months after I'm done with this, like I guess my paternity leave from freelance. And
your boss pay you well?
I was like, I would basically email myself and be like, I need a little bit more time. Like, take your time, James. But yeah, so eventually during that time I had been consulting with Peloton since 2016.
We had done some stuff together.
Yeah.
Actually, have we even talked about the thing that we worked on? I don't even know.
I don't know.
The new treadmill?
Oh, yeah.
Because they have 2 treadmills now.
Right. They have, so there was Tread and Tread Plus. Tread Plus actually is off the market currently because of
was that the one?
The safety issues.
That was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Okay.
But the Tread, which project lead Alex Chatham, shout out, fellow ID dad. Our kids hang out a lot. But he was the lead on that project, and we both worked on it. Yeah. I forgot that you worked on that as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my only thing I worked on that I think came out.
What did you work on the Tread?
Well, it's kind of funny because I make the joke to Jason, as he was the head of design there, and all I did was the knob. But it is the highest touch point of the product, right? I
mean, I've
spent like 2 months on that knob.
The first Tread I worked on, but my only participation in that was the monitor neck.
Right. Yeah. I think I remember you.
But I'm like on it for the awards and things as awesome. a designer.
That's nice of them.
And I was like, yeah, that was nice.
I don't think I got my name didn't get on, but I just made a few little like textures on the knob. So
it definitely felt like they threw me a bone there. But you also kind of you did some work on the dumbbells, right? You like
I worked on your dumbbells that you designed. I guess they updated to have kilograms on it now.
Yeah, for the overseas markets.
Just small details like that.
For those metric markets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had been freelancing there for the longest time, and obviously we all know like during the pandemic, Peloton just like exploded, mm-hmm. and they were building this amazing team and these amazing facilities. And I was like, what have I done? Like, what have I walked away from that I like?
Right. Because you left New York. You're in LA now.
Yeah. So I felt like I really wanted to be a part of like what that team was going to become.
Right.
And, it's been a kind of a rocky road since then. I don't think there's any mystery, like, people know that Peloton has gone through some ups and downs since. Yeah. There's been some rounds of layoffs, and we've lost a lot of like amazing team members because there were layoffs that happened, cut like half of the ID team, which was at one point like 30 people, but it was all like project based, not personnel based. So like a lot of those people, like some of the most talented designers I've ever worked with. But they were fortunate. I think most of them are now, like the job market that they got laid off in was like one of the hottest like ID job markets I've ever seen.
Oh, they got snatched up quick?
Yeah.
That's good.
So, yeah, I mean, it was really tough.
Yeah.
We lost our design director too. It was just like, yeah, I mean, not the best time, but now it feels like things are getting back on track, and we still have an amazing design team there. And yeah, I mean, I love love the scale of that stuff, like the working on that scale.
Right. It's like it's one of the biggest objects you can design without getting into like architecture or interiors.
Car
cars,
design.
yeah.
Because like, I mean, the story always is with car design is like, you got a better chance of being an NBA player
right.
than being a car designer. And so it feels like sneaking in like the back door to basically do something of like the slightly smaller scale. Right. But what I really love about it is like, you know, cars. I mean, my knowledge of car design is so limited, but like when you were talking about cars, like there's often so much aesthetic cladding that goes onto cars onto a substructure. And what I love about a lot of the Peloton equipment is like there's not always a ton of cladding. There's like the structure is the sculpture. So like I really love that part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back in Brooklyn, I've got a 2-year-old now, which is totally wild.
Yeah, that's a whole other
she's
set of challenges,
amazing.
Right? Terrible twos, they say.
Yeah, I mean, I've explained to people that being a parent is like having every single emotion all the time. Like, it's a wild ride, but it's so worth it and so rewarding. But yeah, I don't know.
What I'll say, I do want to ask one thing. Is like, how do you feel? What are your thoughts on LA versus New York as cities, as ID centers? I mean, maybe you can break both those down. I mean, it feels like my guess is that there's more opportunity in New York for ID, but I can't say that for certain.
I don't know if that's the case. It's hard to say because I really didn't get as immersed into the LA scene as I wanted to.
It's just bad timing too, I guess.
It was bad timing. I guess I was moving out to LA. I was mostly nervous about like the lifestyle change.
Right. It's completely different for sure.
I mean,
had to get a car, I guess.
Yeah, I got a car. I mean the thing about LA is like there's this idea that like obviously in New York we have this, I would say, luxury of being able to walk out your door and like walk anywhere, just go down the block and you'll be at like grocery store, you'll be at a coffee shop, you'll be at a restaurant, like easy peasy.
Right.
LA, I had this idea that like, oh God, we got to get in the car to do anything.
Right.
But actually where we ended up, the neighborhood that we ended up in, which is Mar Vista, like we had like a coffee shop at the end of our block. We had restaurants in walking distance. So it actually like wasn't as much of a change as I was anticipating. I think it depends on where you're living in LA. But yeah, it's just totally different. I mean, this might be I don't know, we might get a lot of LA hate here. Okay. But like, I feel like, I don't think it's any secret that New York is like a cultural hub. Right. Like an artistic, and like, you know, ethnically diverse cultural hub. Yeah. There's so much it's
a melting pot.
Yeah. There's so much melting in this pot and, and it's so inspiring. Yeah. And LA is just like, it's just different. I mean, obviously there's the entertainment industry there, which is its own Hollywood. Like culture, but
you got to see the Hollywood sign?
I did see the Hollywood sign.
I've been to LA once for a day trip. Oh. For a meeting to meet Jackson Galaxy, the cat daddy. Way back when I was at PetMate.
Oh man, my cat from hell.
Yeah, we flew in. I met with him at a hotel, and then we drove back to the airport. Didn't get to see anything except for the airport.
LAX is a pretty nice airport.
It's got that little arch thing. Yeah, UFO thing.
Yeah, but LA, I will say like what LA has to offer, or at least like had to offer us that was so different from New York, was just like the diversity of landscape and just like the outdoors. It's crazy in LA how you can just like, you can get in your car and drive like 30 minutes in any direction and be in totally different landscapes. Like we just kind of were like, hey, let's go out for a little joyride.
Right.
And we ended up in the mountains like in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and of course there's the beach and the desert.
That's the amazing thing about California. It's like they have the best nature, you know?
Yes. So but I didn't really get immersed enough in the culture to know, but like I remember going out to like coffee with Mr. Andrew Brace a while ago. This was right before we moved.
Is this the
Brace
friend
Makes
that you did
the prototyping series with?
That's a good little series.
Yeah. And I was talking to him about moving out to LA, and he had similar plans. And there was a woman behind us who had just moved back from LA.
Oh, wait, this is in New York.
This is in New York.
Okay.
And she was like, it's great. Like she had kids, like great for kids. But like in terms of like the sort of like scene there and like the inspiration and everything, it's just not the same. Like, I think what she described was like, if you have like an idea in mind of like a thing you want to do and you can do it in LA, then that's great. But like, it just doesn't have the same, like, it just doesn't have the same scene as New York. It doesn't have the same like
energy.
Yeah. It doesn't have the same like, energy.
I mean, New York does have that energy.
Yeah.
And everyone feels it when they visit.
Yeah.
And everyone gets, falls in love with it.
Yeah. Except when the winter comes.
Yeah. Well,
but spring, summer, fall, you're like, this is the greatest place ever. But anyway, that's a long story. We are back.
For now, I don't know.
For now.
I mean, also, I guess we just wanted to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Just felt like it. I don't know if this will be a continuing thing. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about like plans for your future, what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
I know you've like thrown around ideas to me. Just
right. I mean, I missed doing the podcast, and so like, I had been very much like, let's get this back up and running.
And I was
you were a little hesitant.
Yeah. Well, I was busy doing other things too.
Yeah. Well, and we should catch up on that.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, we can do that. Let's see.
Where were you 2 years ago?
I was
on the brink of the NFT revolution.
Yeah, I did fall down that rabbit hole, and that's where I went for a good solid year plus. And that whole topic needs its own episode, I think.
Yeah.
Like, and it's much bigger than NFTs. It's Web3 in general, just blockchain. It's the new technology, right? It's our internet moment. It's our, 1970s, homebrew computer club moment. If that's how it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And so it's like such an interesting and innovative space. It's always changing. And I don't know, I just got sucked in.
Yeah.
I feel like the thing is like, there's a lot of people that see the rabbit hole and they look down it. And then some people get pushed down it, And once you're at the bottom, it's completely different, I guess I remember getting into crypto or just buying a little bit back in like 2017 when it was going crazy then. But I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing that I fell down this time. I was like, oh, wait, there's actually like a core technology, a core invention here.
Yeah.
And I could keep rambling, but then we would be like 2 hours in and we haven't talked about whatever other stuff. So we'll save some of that for another podcast. But yeah, I obviously did some NFT stuff and continued to do some design stuff, consulting work, and I think all that combined really pushed me to my limit. Like, I pulled an all-nighter one time, like, and that, you're not supposed to do that.
That doesn't really happen.
Right? Like
when you're done with school.
Right. That only happens in school. And so I was like, this is a lot to take in. And, I was successful and, had saved up, and I was like, it's time for me to take a vacation.
Yeah.
And I haven't really taken a vacation since I came to New York.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on my 5th year in New York. It'll be 5 years in, November 1st. And yeah, for 5 years, I would visit family, and I would like, work a little bit, just doing freelance stuff, or maybe take, 1 or 2 days off. But I never like took time to myself to really like not think about design. I mean, I'm always thinking about design, right?
Sure.
And so I was like, I need to like disconnect. I just need to try it and see what happens. Like just completely stop designing for, as long as I could handle. And, I guess I still wanted to design a little bit, or still wanted to be in the culture. So I did like plan a trip to Milan for Design Week. I went to Design Week in, I guess it was 2021 fall, because they had Design Week this year spring. So yeah, I went in the fall, which was the first one they had since the pandemic.
Is it the first one you've ever been to?
No, I'd been to one 2 years before that.
Okay.
I think.
I've never been.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And, Milan's a nice city, very beautiful city. Milan has definitely New York vibes.
Yeah.
I guess it's a nice city. I wouldn't say beautiful as in like nature beautiful. If you go outside the city, obviously a lot of Italy is beautiful, but it definitely has a little bit more like a grunge vibe to it, I think. I haven't been to any other cities in Italy though, so I can't compare it to like Rome or anything.
It makes me think that like, not that Milan is like, I don't know if it's a creative hub, like
for design.
New York, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are people designing there?
Yeah.
Like, I
mean,
almost,
it's a big Italian hub. Like obviously you have like Enzo Mari. He was one of the big ones there.
Right.
And he passed away with COVID.
Yeah.
2 years ago or whatever. I got to see his last. So this is maybe a Milan story.
Yeah.
September, he had they had his big show on at the museum. I forget what it's called, the Triennial Museum or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was amazing. I went the very last day the show was open. And right before Enzo Mari passed away, he said, I want you to show my stuff, and then after you show it, for X amount of days, I want you to put it away in storage for 40 years, because this generation doesn't appreciate good design or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such an old person thing to say.
Yeah.
But I just like lucked out and was there the very last day, and now it's stored away for 40 years.
Wow.
And I got to say, I really fell in love with his work. I know, I had done the Yield chair collection, my DIY collection, heavily inspired by Enzo Mari's, I can't pronounce it, his own DIY collection, some Italian word. And
Auto Pro Italiano.
And so it was just like really nice to kind of tie that all together. And he was really cool. I mean, he was a great designer. It's hard to, I think we think a lot about like the A-list designers, but there's some unsung kind of heroes in the design world, for sure. Some more minor league players, but just as major.
That's for sure. I mean, we've always talked about that there are secret ninjas, people that you don't know about. I've definitely, since coming back to Peloton, discovered some secret ninjas.
Yeah, that just aren't even online, and you're like, wait, you're doing this amazing stuff? Yeah. But yeah, that kind of kicked off my sabbatical. I guess I called it a sabbatical. I don't even know what sabbatical means. People are like, oh, you're a professor? You're taking a sabbatical? I was like, no, I don't. Taking a long vacation. I don't know what you call it. I guess we had talked about Sagmeister takes his like 5-year sabbaticals, right? 7 years.
Yeah, I think he's dropped that whole because he doesn't
not
run the studio anymore.
Walsh.
It's just Walsh now, and Walsh, right?
Yeah,
is the name of the studio.
Some good branding.
And I think he's just like, the last I heard, he was completely focused on just like filmmaking or something.
Interesting.
Because he did that like happiness film.
Okay.
About like, it's like based on this book called The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, and it's like he explored 3 different techniques of like achieving a happier life, which was like, I think it was like meditation, cognitive therapy, and medication. So like in each portion of the film, he like explores one of those things.
Okay. What was the result? What
But
was the best
it's
one?
funny because like in the movie, and he's constantly meeting with Jonathan Haidt throughout it. And at the end, Jonathan Haidt's like, in every section, you fell madly in love with some woman, and like, and so like, and then it would all kind of like fall apart.
Yeah, you go through breakups. Yeah.
And so it was just like, it was, you know, he never achieved any sort of like sustainable,
Interesting.
like, you know, because of course he experiences like these like huge peaks of like elation and happiness due to like this new relationship. And it was it was kind of funny.
I guess there's something for everyone. If you like the roller coaster ride, you know.
Yeah, no, it was a good film. And I saw it like even when he was presenting it. I think I asked a question about like, are you still doing any of these things? I forget what his answer was, but yeah, no, it was a really good film. But yeah, I think he's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what he's up to these days.
Yeah. Well, his sabbaticals for a year long.
Yeah.
And I guess he did do he didn't do client work, I think was his rule. He did like just whatever he felt.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like what I did, but I got sucked in a little bit to some stuff, but I couldn't help it. But here's what I'll say. So Milan was great. You met a lot of people. It's always fun to like hang out. And you know, I wanted to visit a place I haven't been, and I wanted to just kind of I'm not a great planner. So I'm not like one to like plan out a trip and like go see a bunch of like touristy things.
Yeah. Or
even like not touristy things, like trendy things, whatever.
Yeah.
I would much rather just go to a city and just like hang out and just like walk around.
Agreed.
And I mean, I like to do the things. It's just like the mental energy to plan it is like a little much.
Yeah.
But I had never been to Copenhagen. And of course, that's a pretty design-centric city.
Yeah.
They're obviously appreciators of great Danish design. And that was awesome because I also got to link Milan Design Week to Copenhagen Design Week.
Oh.
Copenhagen Design Week is actually 3 days. It's not a whole week, but that was really cool just to like meet people at the very beginning. So now I had some friends there to like hang out with.
Yeah.
You know, met a bunch of. The funny thing is, the funny thing about Denmark is, you know, they keep to themselves, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're very kind of like inclusive and or exclusive, and they don't really talk to foreigners a lot.
Right.
And so all my friends were not Danish. Like I think I met I met a bunch of Swedish people.
Oh yeah.
Swedes were friendly.
Well, the Swedes, because I've been to Copenhagen. Similar. Right after school, I went to Europe, and I like bounced around from city to city, but I would spend a week in each place, like just kind of wandering. And I remember going to Copenhagen, and going out and just like meeting a ton of Swedish people because it's cheaper to drink in Denmark than it is in Sweden.
Oh.
Even though it's like more expensive to drink in Copenhagen than it is in like everywhere else in Europe.
Oh, that was like surprising to me, like how expensive it was there.
Oh yeah.
Like I think I went and I got just like a kind of a fast casual like place where you can get like, you know, like chicken tenders or fries or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like grabbing a bite for lunch, and it was like, I think it was almost $30 for like chicken tenders and fries. I was like, dear Lord. Like I actually was, you know, cooking a bit. And, you know, in New York, I'll go out and I'll just like get a sandwich at the bodega.
Did you stay at like a hostel or did you stay at like an Airbnb?
Yeah, I just got some like longer term Airbnbs.
Nice.
Which was really nice. I mean, there's, you know, the thing is like they appreciate design. So like all the Airbnbs are just like beautiful homes with like beautiful furniture, like,
right.
Or, you know, like eames and like, you know, the real stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know it's a unique place. I didn't think it would be as different as I expected. You know, I thought it was like, oh, it's a European city. Like, you know, it's still kind of like a Western country. But it's like culturally surprisingly different than I expected. I mean, I could tell a story. You want to hear a story?
I would love to hear a story, Nick.
So, you know, I met a few people, and I was going to go on a date with this girl. Just like, you know, meet someone and, you know, get to know them. And, you know, I messaged her on the dating app, and I was like, yeah, let's meet up, walk around the city. I'm just here visiting, just want to like get to know the place. Maybe you can take me to a cool restaurant or a park or something. And she was like, yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe we can meet 8 p.m. and walk around. I'm like, sure. And I was thinking like this was in I think it was October or September, and so it was dark at 8 p.m. And Copenhagen is really interesting because they're also pretty diligent about like light pollution. It's very dark in the city, and in the parks they have no street lights, no lights in the park. And I was like, I think I'd offered to like walk around in the park, and then she was like, let's do it at 8 p.m. And I was like, okay, like sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll like walk around and then go to like get a drink or something. But I go to the park and I'm like standing there and it's pitch black and I don't know this person, and like I'm like, this is kind of weird. And she messaged me. She's like, all right, I'm in the park. I'm behind a shed. And, and I'm like, red flag. What's going on? I'm in a foreign place. I don't know any better. And so I messaged her back. I'm like, can you come out to the street where the light is? It was pitch black. I didn't even think the moon was out. I think it was like a new moon.
She quickly stashed her hockey mask and
exactly.
chef's knife.
And yeah, she came out. She was walking her dog, so that's why she was like, walking around the park. And yeah, she was like, oh yeah, it's fine. I do this all the time. I was like, you walk around the park at night? I was like, you would never do that in New York.
No.
And we did. We went. We took a little stroll around the park. Just chatting. And the funny thing is like I couldn't even see her face because it was pitch black. I only got to like see her when we walked down to the light.
Yeah.
Which she was a nice person. I didn't get to see her again after that. But
she vanished into the park.
Yeah, exactly. Went back into the darkness.
Figment of your imagination.
Maybe.
She was like, you only adopted the dog. I was born in it, molded by it.
So yeah, I think that's a very like stark cultural difference.
Yeah.
It's just a very trustworthy society.
Yeah.
Like people don't really. I mean, you do kind of lock your bike there, but you don't like lock it like you do in New York, where you like lock it, you lock the wheel, you lock everything together. And
isn't there like stories though not in Denmark, but in like Amsterdam of them having to like dredge up bikes from the canals?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's cool. Did I tell you that I've started? I mean, that I've started like biking around the city.
Big city bike.
I'm a bike boy now.
City bike boy.
I used to be like, I will never ride a bike around the city. Like I know somebody who got like car doored, like totally broke their jaw.
I mean, this is my take on biking.
Yeah.
This is why I rarely ever bike. I'll take a city bike like every once in a while if there's a group of friends that are all doing it, but I don't do it.
But they have these e-bikes, like the power pedal bikes.
Came out with the new version.
The new version is crazy.
Yeah, fast.
It's like
a motorcycle.
I think. I mean,
I don't know. 50 miles an hour.
I don't know if this is 15 miles an hour.
I said 50, but I'm joking.
Well, no. I don't know.
It probably gets up to 20.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it goes really fast. And I will say, like, it's the closest I'll ever be to a fighter pilot in terms of like terms of the amount of.
You do wear a helmet, which is good.
I do wear a helmet.
Got your helmet on.
Although I feel like I should wear like a full.
Got your mask on.
Like a full helmet.
Oxygen mask.
But like it's like a really fun way of getting to work, to be honest.
Get your blood pumping in the morning.
But the funny thing is like. Sometimes the e-bikes are really hard to come by.
Yeah, because you'll have
to take like a regular bike to another bike station to get on an e-bike. And sometimes I get one of the old e-bikes, one of the blue bikes, and then I'm like constantly like keeping my eye out for other docks to see if they have the gray bike, and I will like swiftly like switch bikes.
Do you have to pay more when you switch like that?
I think they are a little bit more expensive, but.
But you have a membership, so
but it's only a reduced price. I don't understand. Maybe I'm dumb, but I don't understand why there's not just like a membership price to cover everything.
Yeah. Well, I think there is if you are part of like there's like
Secret
a
City Society.
Yeah. Is that it? What's it
If
called?
I have keys to the city.
Yeah, there's something-
CITI.
Wait, are you referring to something? Are you making this
No,
up?
I'm
Okay.
joking.
There is something like this where like you can be a
I have to be presented the keys to the city by Eric Adams.
Yeah.
And then I can ride unlimited gray bikes.
yeah, and you get it's gold or
juiced
something.
up gray bikes. No, it's funny. I was at a bike dock because often you'll find these gray bikes and the batteries are completely dead.
Right.
But I like came up on one and there was this guy who pulled up in like an unmarked van and started putting in new batteries. Into,
Yeah,
and I
the
just
battery
was
guy.
like, oh yeah.
He's juiced up.
It's so much fun, and it's like I don't know. It's more fun than like sitting on the subway.
Yeah. I know it's fun for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I definitely like. It's definitely a thing that like when you're with a group of friends and you're like bar hopping or something.
And you're really drunk.
Well,
and you're
that's
like,
that's a little risky. I mean,
and
maybe a
then you're
beer or
like,
two.
now's
in.
the time to start biking.
I mean, maybe that's when you're
Pitch black darkness.
inhibitions
Talk
are
about
low.
a trust
You're like,
society.
yeah, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
So
man.
you spent time in Copenhagen.
Yeah. Okay. So
Did you get what of the design did you experience? I guess you went to Design Week.
Right.
Did you go around to any of the architecture?
yeah, there's some nice museums there. The one thing that was really beautiful was this church that I think the architecture style is Romantic style. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe I could look it up. But the church is just made of brick. It's all this yellow brick. And it was beautiful. Like the way the arches were, it's all like really minimal. Oh, here we go. It's called the Grundtvigs Church. And I don't know, just gorgeous. That was probably the best.
Shout out Grundtvigs.
Yeah. That was probably the best kind of design experience outside of Design Week that I had.
Yeah.
I think they have a really famous design museum there with a bunch of chairs, but they closed it for COVID and they hadn't opened it up again.
All those chairs got COVID, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was another thing too. You know, I went pretty. I guess it was 2021, so U.S. was still pretty, COVID safe. Definitely New York.
I didn't realize that you were traveling there during.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was pre-pandemic.
No, this is.
But the Scandinavian countries were like pretty like. I don't
Yeah.
know how
Yeah,
Denmark was, but Sweden was like, hey, here's all the information.
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Well, I think that's also the cultural thing too. It's like they kind of trust each other.
Yeah.
To, stay home if you're sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you land in Copenhagen, I was like still wearing mask and like get onto the subway in Copenhagen. The subway is also a funny thing in Copenhagen. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's no turnstiles.
It's just I just imagine it all with like Finn Jewel chairs, like just rows and rows of
Just
Scandinavian
like Arne Jacobsen or
Hans
something, yeah.
Hans Wegner wishbone chairs.
Yeah, I get on the subway and I'm the only one wearing a mask, and I was like, oh, interesting, okay. And that was the last time I wore a mask for like 2 straight months. I was like,
Nice.
okay.
Just walking around Copenhagen in the nude.
Yeah.
In the face nude.
I mean, it was a nice break to like not have that mental,
Right.
weight on you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't figure out the subway system for a while, so I definitely took it illegally because you're supposed to scan your card. It's like an honor system.
Yeah.
And every time I scanned my card, it would just flash red and say something in Danish like, Schnaken, no. I was like, what does this mean? I don't know what it means. I bought my card. It's not working.
It means wait here for the police. They're coming.
And so I was just like, oh, okay. And like, people are like looking at me like
Yeah.
you're just gonna walk away. You're not gonna pay.
Oh man.
I finally figured it out eventually. When I met someone, I was like, okay, what is this? What is
Yeah.
it saying? And they're like, oh, you have to do it this way, and you have to like check out. So you check in and check out, which
Yeah.
I wasn't doing, and that's why I was like getting a red signal.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. I think my realization with the whole sabbatical thing, the thing is I would wake up, I would, just make breakfast, make a nice coffee, and then go for a walk around the city usually. Just go and visit places and just, take it in, maybe have a nice dinner somewhere just alone. And, a lot of like just reflection time, like what am I doing with my career, like that kind of thing. And at the end of it, I was kind of itching. I was like, I'm ready to get back.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get back into it.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I realized, like culturally, that I missed about America is we're a country of builders and doers.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone grinds here and builds amazing things. And maybe that's maybe not for everyone. A lot of people. Copenhagen is an amazing place to like, lay low, have a family, retire. Like you could just like, have the greatest lifestyle ever there.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really met a lot of people that were like, oh yeah, I'm building this company, I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are people there. It's just like culturally, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a pro for some people, con for others, or a mixture. But that was like one thing I kind of missed is like, okay, like, and it's funny, like you go to a bar and you meet people and they're like have like 3 degrees because university's free there, and so people like study for like 5 6 years. And you're like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I just work at a coffee shop or something. Yeah. And it's just like, they love, they're enjoying their life.
Right.
But it's like, I don't know. It's just like the American mentality of me. It's like, but what are you going to like build or contribute?
Yeah. Interesting.
Making coffee is a good contribution to society too, but you know what I mean?
Oh, those are the unsung heroes, the coffee makers. I have this whole thing where I feel like coffee makers, or not coffee makers, but like the barista has really taken the place of like what the old school bartenders used to be, of like the confidant. Like I try to build good relationships with my baristas, like know them by name, know a bit about them. I like having that relationship because I'm not going to the bar to like have that kind of relationship with the bartender. Right. I will say it's interesting hearing you talk about this, because I feel like in a way some aspects of LA were kind of like a design sabbatical for me.
I've heard that too. Like LA is definitely like, well, there's the saying, right? It's like, leave New York before you get too hard, and leave LA before you get too soft.
I just feel like it, like leaving, and part of the reason, I don't know if I talked about this, but part of the reason that I really wanted to go full time again was I just really was not enjoying freelance. I wasn't enjoying, like, even though I was kind of a part of teams, I wasn't like fully invested, and I wasn't necessarily always working with people. And
there's still that barrier and of like respect and like, oh, well, it's just freelance.
Yeah. And the great irony of the whole thing was like, I wanted to stop working from home, and then like I was forced to work, we were all like then forced to work from home for like the next 2 years. So like I was like, I want to go into an office. I'm ready to go back. So like, but yeah, I think like I lost a lot of confidence in my abilities. And I think I also kind of lost sight of like, I was just constantly like, what is my process? And like, do I have a good process? And am I a good designer? Yeah. Like, and I feel like going back to Peloton and also like getting some distance from things in LA, like kind of made me, I'm still, it's always the constant struggle of like, when do you put the pen down? Like when are things good enough? Like, and I do feel like I've reached that point where I just like, I try not to like overextend myself and overexert. Like, I feel like I have a more refined process now, and I know like how I'm going to arrive at a solution better than I used to. And I feel like I used to like very much overcomplicate things. Yeah. And now I feel like I have a good process for like how to build from scratch to get to like the rich concept that I would be striving for in the beginning. But like the difference is that there's like a good workflow up to it rather than just like this constant like mulling and noodling and then like trying to arrive at that thing, like, you know, from the beginning, try to arrive at that profound thing without having done all of like the like, you know, like the basic, like scrappy, like super scrappy work in the beginning. I don't know. Like, I feel like I did that, but I felt like all the time I put so much pressure on myself to be like, okay, with this next thing, I have to figure out the profound thing. But like, it really is just like, it is like a marathon and not a race. And like, even your career, just like thinking about how to approach it sustainably, it's just like, okay, just finish this thing and then get to that thing.
Yeah.
Like finish this thing, then get to that thing. And instead of just like, oh my God, I've got to be the most respected because my ideas just like come out fully formed. And, you know, like, I think that's totally just unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is too, when you, especially like getting a peek into, you know, a big name designer's process or like a big studio, you realize like we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like whether you're working at Apple or you're working for yourself on some no-name company, it's like we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes things can come to you fully formed.
Right.
But that can give you this impression that like that's how it should be, or like that's what you should wait for. And sometimes like you don't have the luxury of waiting for it, and actually the way to get to that profound thought is through all the mundane like work to lead up to it.
I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot because, well, so part of the I guess insight from my sabbatical, and something I've been wanting to do for a while now, is rebrand. And not just like a new logo and a new website, but the full-on business. Like, you know, what is the goal here? You know, and you know, essentially what I want is to move into studio. You know, just have Nicholas Baker Studio, where I work a lot more on licensing products and less on consulting. You know, I want companies to say, "Oh, I want a Nicholas Baker design," and not, "Oh, I want a designer who can 3D model this thing that I need." And so I want to be able to design things, and I want to, you know, help companies put out like really unique and, I don't know, objects that have some emotion and some, you know, I guess style or personal kind of story to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's one of my updates too, is like a big part of this year has been I took a business class. Been restructuring the studio. I got a new studio, if you're looking at the video. It's
awesome.
a nice little spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been really good. I don't know if we want to talk about that. I signed up for this business course that was like a Zoom class with Holly Howard is her name. And she's amazing. She's a business coach for creatives.
Cool.
So she's worked with a lot of New York furniture designers, kind of in the more art scene.
Yeah.
But a wide range of people. I think like, you know, maybe some names that you may know, or maybe our listeners may know, is like Eric Trine or Fort Standard or Chen and Kai. I was in a class with like AreaWare, head of AreaWare.
Oh, wow.
And like Sophie Lou Jacobson. And so like a lot of like more, I guess, you know, name brand designers, I guess. Eponymous studio name. What's the word? Eponymous? Eponym? You know, like when someone's like,
I thought
they
eponymous
started
is when they're dead, and it's like when somebody dies and they release more of their music, like it's their eponymous.
Maybe.
Am I mixing that up?
Well, there's a word that when you say, "Oh, they started a studio under their own name."
Oh, yeah.
It's eponymous.
It might be eponymous. Maybe I'm mixed up. Maybe I just relate everything back to death. I don't know.
So anyways, you know, a lot of that kind of design scene, and she helps a lot of those people. And she also has a really great newsletter. I would suggest everyone like sign up for it. I think the really neat thing is that she really approaches business kind of from a cultural standpoint, and less from like a profit margin standpoint. Like I think I took like a business class in like high school, and it was like, this is what profit means. This is what margin is. And it's like, all right, this is just like math. I'm like,
Sure.
it's not helpful at all. But like a big part of this class was, you know, what are your values? What is your mission? What is your vision? And we all have these things, like, you know, subconsciously or in us, like, oh, like, you know, we value this or we value that. But, you know, just writing those things down and really considering them and thinking over them and like taking months to like just ponder them and, you know, writing like, oh, you know, your entire history of your life and, you know, pulling the threads of like, you know, throughout my entire life, this has been the one thread that I value the most.
Yeah.
Or this has been the one thread that I value. And pulling all those things together has been really helpful to like see like, okay, this is my mission as a design studio.
Yeah.
And how do I build from there? And I hadn't had that before. And so I guess I can say my mission is to design objects that embrace a delightful future.
Nice.
I think it kind of encompasses all of the things that I strive for in my practice. And the values that kind of build that up is, I have 4 values. The first one is Vanguard, which is all about exploring, pioneering, you know, embracing kind of the leading edge. You know, I think about a lot of past designers, whether it was like the Eames with like molded plywood, you know, Dieter Rams with a lot of like acrylic stuff. I mean, Dieter Rams did a lot of really kind of pioneering things for the time. You know, a lot of designers, you know, Johnny Ive, Steve Jobs, they all embraced the latest technology of their time and used it to their advantage and explored that and brought it to the masses. And that's what made them great, is because they, you know, told this story about this new technology in a unique way that could be used for something, you know, really useful. You know, we've had these technologies before. You know, we had touchscreen, we had molded plywood before, like the Eames, but these designers brought them and made them approachable. And I don't know, I think that's a big part of what I love to do, is like explore those new technologies and how do I bring those to the masses and tell that story. I think a lot of it too is like thinking about my career and what I've done. It's not that I design like innovative objects. I mean, we did do one tech product, Control Labs, which was awesome, and that was fun. But a lot of the stuff is like, the object is like the prop in the story, right? The chair is not the innovative part. It's like the story behind the chair. It's like, oh, the chair exists on the blockchain, or oh, the chair was designed in VR. You know, it's all these kind of things. That's really the value. It's like, it gets someone inspired to be like, oh, well, VR could really transform this thing, or, you know, be a design tool. So that's one value. I have 4. I guess the next one is Distill. That's a pretty important one. You know, just letting design sit, letting your subconscious kind of work on them. You know, I think it's just an important part of the design process to like step away. Play. Or was it play? Oh shoot, I not even remember my values that I've spent 3 months thinking about. I think it's play. This is all about experimentation, you know, just like being in the mode of exploring and learning. It kind of plays off the Vanguard thing. I think Vanguard is more about tech. And then my last one is optimism. I think in order to design a better future, you have to believe in one. And, you know, I think that's becoming a rare thing nowadays. So I think that's an important thing. That's maybe a more unique perspective. So that kind of builds up to my mission of embracing a delightful future.
Dope.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that. Yeah. Especially like structurally in the business, like building out systems of, okay, how do I come up with ideas? How do I pitch ideas? checking back to like, does this concept fit within the values?
Right.
I think a big part of this class too is like understanding that businesses, the difference between like a freelancer building a business and like a true business is a true business can run without the owner there, right? Like if I stepped away from the studio and it was able to keep running, then that's a true business, right?
Mm.
It's not like a freelance career, right? And so setting all those systems in place for, freelancers or employees to kind of take over and be able to kind of produce the same vision and energy, these delightful objects, and these, kind of stories about tech and innovating.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's like that idea of being able to step away and for things.
I'm not saying this, I guess that was an overstatement. Like,
sure,
you still can have a business if, as a freelancer, but.
Right. No, I just mean like, is that actually achievable? Because like, so this gets at an even deeper thing, which is like, can the work of an auteur or like somebody who's doing something that's like so personal actually be done by anybody but them, like overseen by anybody but them?
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of where we're seeing like art falter these days, and I would say like most like popular art forms, especially like movies and television, is when you can feel that something has been done by a group of people, like that there's been a committee, like we always talk about design by committee, versus like a person who has to like, they have to steer the ship. Of course they can't do it alone, right? But like they have sort of like the final like say. The vision. Yeah. They have the vision, they have the final say. Like, so is that idea of being able to step away, like, I think it's totally feasible when you're talking about like, oh, could I step away from a factory that's producing my chair? Yeah. Of course, you should be able to. Right. That's like no duh. But when it comes to like coming up with the like spark for a new idea, like, can you replicate that?
That's a good critique. I mean, you're right. I would say, I think it's not necessarily that I would step away. I think it's just this idea about building an efficient system where it's not me working 24/7.
Sure. You're just talking about a more sustainable practice.
Right. And obviously like I work 24/7 because I love doing it. And like, I would just tinker on things even if I didn't, work. It's like one and the same to me. So, that's a lot of the stuff we talked about in class too, is like Holly works with all these creatives that, do what I do, where we just like kind of just tinker on stuff. Yeah. We would do the same thing even if we didn't get paid. And I know it's like, you're going to get burnt out if you keep doing that forever.
Sure.
And, I guess I kind of felt that with my sabbatical.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it's still a work in progress. And, it's funny too, like now that I do have all this underlying structure and meaning, it makes the other things a lot easier. Like, I can rebrand the website like pretty simply now. It's like, okay, I know what needs to go and what the message needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, it feels like a nice relief too, because it's like, I stand for this. Yeah. You can get on board or you don't have to.
Yeah.
That was another big part of the class too, was like not compromising your values. Like there are plenty of amazing values out there. Like I guess like a good example is like sustainability. Like, there were a few people in class that like that was one of their core values. That's not one of my core values. Not like, it's not that I don't believe in it. I think sustainability is obviously an important process and part of design. I think it should be implemented. But, you can only pick so many values.
Right.
You can't focus on all the problems of the world.
Right. Yeah. No, it's impossible. It kind of reminds me in the last, I guess a year ago, myself and a couple other members of the Peloton ID team, and there was like kind of a circulation of people through this process, but building out the Peloton like industrial design language document, which like I really believe that like similar to what you're saying about the core values, like having an industrial design language sort of more codified, it actually makes the design process more efficient.
Yeah.
Because like you can just say that's not a part of our IDL.
Right.
Like we wouldn't pursue this type. Because like I think that especially young designers, and I probably fall victim to this too, but you can sort of take engineers' word as gospel sometimes of like, oh, we can't do that. But there's actually like, just like with design, there's multiple engineering solutions.
Right.
And I love this quote. This is a quote from an economist, Thomas Sowell, but he says, there are no solutions, there's only trade-offs. And like, I think about that all the time when I think about different design solutions, because like you do come to the point where you're like, oh yeah, like if we do it this way, that means we have to sacrifice this. And if we do it this way, it means we have to sacrifice this. And so it's just like, what are you willing to sacrifice sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, I think, the engineers can come to you and say like, we can do it these ways. And with having an IDL, you can further narrow those things down. You can further like industrial design language.
Got it. Okay.
With having that, you can more efficiently make decisions. So you and the engineers can come together and have like a very rich conversation about like what makes sense for the program, what makes sense for the design, what makes sense for the engineering. Like you can all come to the table with something. And we presented the IDL to the engineers and they were very receptive to it. There's actually a funny story. I don't know what our time is looking like right now.
I think whatever it is, we're going to make this a good episode because I think people haven't listened for 2 years.
Yeah.
They can listen to our podcast, I'm sure.
So yeah, we were going to present to the engineers of Peloton our IDL. And at our HQ in Manhattan, there's a floor that has like a cafeteria, but also has a stage area.
Oh, okay.
And so like there's a screen and everything. Like that's where they do their like all hands and everything. So
you made this an event.
Oh, it was an event.
Oh, that's
amazing. So there were like many engineers in the office, many more online, like people just watching.
Okay.
And so we're up there. So like it's myself and Mark Cruz, who's like longtime designer at Peloton, like OG, like he's a secret ninja, like one of the best. Mm-hmm. And so he and I are presenting this together. And so like we're like switching off back and forth. We actually, for some reason, we only have one microphone, and so we're handing it off to each other.
Okay.
And so like we get introduced, everything's going fine. We're taking turns, and I think I'm on like my second turn, and I'm like reading through. I have like a prompter that I'm reading off of, and I can feel my throat start to close, like completely close. I have no idea. And I just...
Like water? Did you need water, or were you like having an allergic reaction?
I think I needed water, and I just completely lost my voice. I didn't have any water.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like standing there with the microphone, not able to say anything. I look over at Mark, and he holds up a glass, and it's like no water left
just
in
like
it.
Half a sip.
And so there's like a kitchen off to the side. So I literally run across the stage, hand him the microphone, and run off the stage over to the kitchen and like pour myself a glass. I'm like looking back, and I see like all these engineers like, what is happening?
Thirsty boy.
Yeah. And I run back over to the stage, like I've taken a glass of water, and I like grab the mic, and I like I don't think I can say the joke that I said because it has to do with like the IDL, like Peloton principles. But like basically like I'm like, how am I going to come back from this? I make this joke. The entire audience laughs. Yes. Thank God. I like, and like the head of hardware is like, he like cues up this sound for like the and I
wait, someone has a sound effect?
Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing.
And I was just like, oh, thank God. But
the
then
crowd goes wild.
Yeah. It was like, I have never been so, it was like, it was living a real life nightmare. And so like we're going through, we continue to go through it. And like on my last slide, I start to feel my throat close up again. And I'm just like pushing through it. And I'm like, and that's what the Peloton IDL. Like it was so.
You gotta go to Dr. James. I don't know what's going on here.
I think it was just like, I think it was a nerves thing. I think it was a water thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what was going on, but
you always need water when you do talks for sure. I do.
Yes.
Definitely.
Word to the wise. Always have a glass. I mean, there's a reason why comedians always have a glass or bottle of water on that stool with them on stage. It's like very necessary. Mm-hmm. So anyway, total horrific moment, but I guess I managed.
Saved it. You made the joke. That's all that people remember.
And I will say that like afterwards, the engineers are like, we don't remember almost anything from the presentation except for like what you said when you got back on stage, which was like, it was a joke about the principles. Right. So they all remember the principles.
Nice.
So like,
amazing.
It actually like, it was almost like it was orchestrated for the engineers to like pay attention and remember.
I mean, it's always good to weave in jokes into presentations.
Yeah. But it's so, I mean, it's so hard to like, know what's gonna land and what's gonna be fun. And
I was thinking about this the other day. I forget who I was talking to, but I was like, it'd be really funny to like do a comedy bit about design, but you can't practice because you'd have to practice in front of designers. And how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, like normal comedians practice in front of, you know, comedy clubs.
Yeah.
But there's no like design comedy clubs, you know? Like you can't make SolidWorks jokes. And
you just mean like trying out your presentation jokes on an audience of designers. I don't know.
And then when you get like if it's like for a client or something, you got NDAs. You can't try out jokes. It'd be so good to try out jokes, you know.
I know. I feel like when I'm able to be like my quote unquote funniest, like if I'm engaging with a client, is like once you're out of the presentation and you're just in sort of the conversational mode, like I don't know how to like insert a joke into a presentation and have it land.
Yeah. Oh, well, here I was doing a call the other day. With Gravity Sketch and a few people there, and I made this joke. I think the question is like, when you design things, do you have your prototypes in hand while you're designing? And I was I'm gonna grab the thing right quick.
Yeah.
So I've been working on this like little EVA shoe. And I was holding this up. And I was like, yeah, of course I have it in hand. And I was like, actually, I have it on foot. But I couldn't tell if the joke lands because it's a Zoom call. So it's like everyone's, no one has their mic on. So, it always feels a little weird when you like do the online thing.
Oh, yeah. 100%. But yeah, no, but like I said, the IDL, like listening to you talking about your values, like I do think it's really important to have those higher level values and sort of understand, especially at a company like Peloton or any corporate company, to understand your like design principles, because otherwise you're just like, you're designing in a vacuum and you can design anything. Like you need to have some sort of guidance, even if it's totally arbitrary. I mean, we all know that like, it's much better to create when you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, constraints.
Or constraints,
yeah. Did you say restraints?
Yeah, I guess. When you're constraints is what I meant. You got it. Close enough.
Tie me down and give me a pen.
Oh my gosh. And also, if you hire people, you're all aligned.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, these are, it's not like you get into a company and you're like, oh, this is the value? Like, this is what you guys value?
Yeah.
And then it's a misaligned match, and then that's where you get in trouble where, like, people are like, oh, I don't like working here.
Yeah.
But when it's upfront, it's like, this is what you're interviewing for. These are my values. It's on my website. Like,
Right.
this is what I believe in. This is what the studio believes in. This is what everyone here believes in.
Yeah, yeah.
And, it's really just about building that company culture. I mean, there's so many companies that do this so well. Apple is obviously famous for it.
Yeah.
Just having that strong company culture that everyone's here to build these values that Apple believes in.
Yeah.
And even if you're just solo, it's still important,
Agreed.
So yeah, that's been kind of a big thing. I mean, it's a lot of work. I know it's like, it sounds very like simple, but it's just like a lot of thinking and reflection. And I'm excited for it. I mean, it's going to be like my step into the kind of licensing side of design. And obviously that side of design is very hard. But it's something that I've always wanted to do. It's something that I've strived for since I left my full-time job. I've always wanted to get royalties and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've started, I've been striving for that for a long time, and I have a few projects out now that are bringing in some royalties. And I launched a few projects this year, which I guess we can mention. Worked on a wallpaper project.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was kind of a new one. That was a fun one because this one was kind of connected to quote unquote like metaverse stuff. It's this new startup in London or England called Bobby Beck. They do print on demand wallpaper, and they wanted to kind of explore like what are the connections with, Web3, what can we do here? And they saw that, hey, I'm a designer and I'm also interested in this stuff. So they kind of reached out, and I think they put one of my virtual reality chairs in some of their scenes, and then I was like, oh, I'd love to do a wallpaper design. Just to like try something new. I haven't done 2D in a long time.
Yeah.
And so my concept was I wanted to do spirograph wallpaper and make my own spirographs.
Yeah.
So I 3D printed a bunch of like spirograph gears and made a bunch of designs and explored different like kind of line work, and I think it turned out nice. I'm proud
There's
of it.
nothing more fun than a spirograph.
Yeah. I almost like did it just because it was fun. I was like,
Yeah.
this is just fun.
No,
Yeah.
I mean that from what you were talking about with your brand values, like
Right.
that's like
It has the playful
perfect
aspect.
encapsulation of what
Right.
you were talking about.
And the Vanguard, we made NFTs of the spirographs, and they're obviously a startup with print on demand stuff. Yeah, it definitely encapsulated a lot of those things, and it still had that little physical touch, like the physical spirographs.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I kind of pulled it all back in to ID2, and then the other project that I'm super excited about is my first sofa collection. And technically, I guess my first production chair.
Heck yeah.
This actually launched this month. I haven't announced it yet just because I want to get, I'm kind of working with Derek Elliott, and we might do some renders, some animations, some
Dope.
kind of more promotional stuff. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm excited for that. And, Derek does amazing work.
Yeah.
Did all the Control Lab stuff, and of course does all of his fun stuff.
Mhm.
And you guys did the helicopter.
Oh, come on, the helicopter.
Yeah.
Glory days.
So that's exciting, and maybe I teased a few photos here and there. I archived my whole Instagram. That was another thing. Part of my rebrand.
Yeah.
I actually want to build kind of an archive on my website, my new website, instead of on Instagram, just so I have more control over it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll talk about the sofa next podcast.
Yeah.
Or whenever the thing's announced or ready.
Yeah.
But it
I
was
would
for a
love
Polish.
to.
It was for a Polish company. I don't think I mentioned that. And I went over to Poland beginning of the year too to visit the factory. That was a really awesome trip, just to see like fabric and wood and foam roll in one door and then full sofas roll out the other. Insane.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I've obviously been to injection molding factories.
Right.
We had one in Texas for dog toys. I've been to like small little like things here or there, but seeing something that large and that kind of efficient
Yeah.
is wild to see.
Totally.
Yeah, and Poland's a pretty interesting country to visit too, because it's definitely more on the eastern side of Europe.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see what. I mean, we're probably about an hour in. I think we can keep going. I think we should maybe just catch up on some news.
Should we catch up on some design news?
Sure.
Design news.
Let's see. We have this little guy sitting here. This is the Playdate by
Yeah.
Panic.
Well, that's yours. I'm still waiting on my pre-order.
Yeah, this is designed by Teenage Engineering in collaboration with Panic, or vice versa. Panic collaboration with Teenage Engineering. It is a Game Boy essentially.
Yeah.
It's a little video game thing with a crank on it, and I gotta tell you, man, it's just this nice thing. It's just like a nice little square. We love a good square, a filleted square.
Yeah, I mean, Teenage Engineering, I feel like have really gotten themselves in like the middle of the entire conversation about industrial design now.
Yeah.
Because like
they're doing like the innovative stuff now.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's just so interesting because I mean, they started out with like the sound, like the music equipment,
Right.
But they've started like doing a lot of collaboration with other brands. You know, obviously this is with Panic. And then there's like the Nothing stuff, the earbuds and the phone.
Wait, what's it called?
Isn't it Nothing?
Nothing. No, I'm just messing. I'm just making a nothing joke. There's probably been a gazillion nothing jokes been made.
Yeah, I mean that stuff.
Yeah, the clear, because the unique thing about that was everything's clear plastic. Which I gotta say, we called it. We did it before they did it.
I think you were onto it before I was, but I was totally ready to embrace it because like I would say like one of the things that first got me interested in industrial design was like the generation of Apple stuff with like the colorful iMacs and
the Game Boy, clear Game Boys.
Yeah, like all that clear stuff.
Yeah.
So I was all about it when you were like, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
So because I think there were a few companies that were experimenting with it, like Xbox. Didn't Xbox have like
that was when
some controllers that were
the new ones.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Xbox did some stuff way back in the day.
Yeah.
Back with like the Game Boy.
Yeah.
But they did, what was it, 2019, come out with that clear controller or something, and we were like, oh, this is nicely designed.
Yeah. But Teenage Engineering, they have, with the Nothing, they did that clear back to the phone, which like makes it looks like a movie prop. Like it looks like a movie prop from the future. And I mean, like, I think some people probably think it's like gimmicky. Yeah. But I do love the like LED system of like notifications and like the custom like ringtones that they've worked on. And
yeah, I guess that's a good viewpoint of it. I mean, I would agree that it is kind of a stylistic risk. I mean, I think I respect it because it is a risk. Like, respect for anyone that puts the money on the table and makes a risk like that. But it did have some usefulness with like kind of like showing off the key charger and the LED system.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not like the problem is like, Apple just has the monopoly on phones, or at least in America, and it's just gonna be so hard for a new company like that to break in.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about it before, but I feel like whatever company knocks Apple off of its perch is going to be whatever comes after the phone. Like, because we're not always going to be
AR and VR.
Yeah, I mean, like the phone is going to be an object of a certain time period at some point.
Yeah,
and so
Neuralink.
Because like rarely do you see a company like Apple like ever pivot into like the new technology and master it in a way that like some company's going to come along, and it might not even be any of the companies that we think, like, and come along and launch the thing that's like, oh wow, of course this is the next way that we're going to communicate. And that's what I love about like business and tech, is just like it's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
In that way of
Right.
like a company could have started a year ago and in like a couple of years be like the dominant tech company because they figured out something that nobody else could figure out because they're so zoomed in on like perfecting what they're doing
Right.
and in their certain lane. Because like, with the latest Apple releases, like there's nothing totally dramatically new.
Right.
It's like the
Yeah.
upgraded cameras.
Yeah. It makes me miss Steve, man.
And then the new watch.
They did get rid of the notch.
They did.
We got a
I
pill
know,
now.
I know. Thank
Or an
you.
island.
Thank you.
An island.
The dynamic island.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool. Like I like what they're doing. I think Apple, I don't remember when it happened, which OS, but I feel like a couple OSs ago, like they really kind of upped their UI game. Because for a while, the UI was just like, whatever. But I feel like it's a lot more playful now, or like within the past couple of years than it was before.
More animations.
Like, more animations. Like I remember, because I feel like the volume, like for a while, I don't remember anything coming up telling you like, oh, you're changing the volume, but now it's like this like cute little animation.
Okay.
And
James, this is an ID podcast. Don't get too carried away here.
Listen,
Can't give the UXers more merit than they get. They get plenty of money. We don't get any money.
I know. For as much as they get paid, they should be making good stuff.
I'm just messing.
But
we love you, UXers.
But yeah, I mean, the dynamic island is an interesting marriage of UI and ID.
Yeah. It was nicely done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm due for an upgrade. I think you're due for an upgrade too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be our next one. We skipped. We only had one notch. Thank goodness.
I know. I have a phone with a notch begrudgingly.
Yeah. I know you were like considering switching to Android just because of the notch. Remember that?
Maybe because Samsung and Google, didn't they both
have hole punch
embrace
now.
the hole punch?
Yeah.
But yeah, like the dynamic island is like taking it a step further, which is like now the dynamic island is like this expanding and contracting thing that exposes things about the UI. I think it's just like a nice touch, but it also it's a nice touch working within that constraint. And then the new watch, I feel like, what are your thoughts on the new watch?
When I first saw it, I was like, it feels like a risky design for Apple, which is like not a risky design at all. But it's like, oh, wow, they stepped out on a limb here for once in a long time.
Yeah.
To me, it actually feels a little Newsom-y. It has a little Mark Newson like flair to it.
I mean, Mark Newson did work on the original watch, right?
Yeah. I don't know if he touched this one or not, but
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I think,
because I know Johnny's gone now.
Right. I think what they were trying to get across was like this almost like, I feel like it's like luxury utility.
Yeah.
And I feel like you see these kind of like weird luxury watches on the market.
You know what it kind of reminds me of?
What's that?
It reminds me of when an industrial designer designs a toolkit. Because it's like always a hammer and a screwdriver, and so they're like industrial things, so they have like an industrial flair to them, but they're always smoothed out. That's what it kind of reminds me of.
It's very,
if Apple designed a drill or a saw,
right? It's very it is very rugged luxury or something, and even the fact that they have like a color, like an orange button on the side is like, I mean, that's something that Google has been doing with their phones, like having those like mint green buttons and like, the
orange is, I feel like, a nod to Johnny. That's his favorite
color.
color.
Yeah, that's his favorite color. Mm-hmm. Orange.
I think I read that somewhere because they've had the orange on the iPhone forever, and I think it's still there. It's on the silent button.
Interesting.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes me think of, I met I think it was like my senior year of college. We had this guy who is a designer. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget his name. It's Chuck something. I feel so badly. He designed the first ViewMaster, and like he's got like a ton of work from.
What is the ViewMaster?
The ViewMaster is like, you remember those
toy.
like the toys,
the red toy with the disc. Okay, and it showed you stills, photos, right?
Yeah.
Or did it show you 3D? It showed you 3D.
I think it was
could.
just, I mean, maybe later versions of it, but I think originally it was just like transparencies on a disc. Yeah, I'm going to have to look up his name because I feel really bad, but I'm pretty sure his first name is Chuck, but I remember talking to him afterward. I was working on a thesis that was like this standing desk for kids. And I was like, can you give me any tips? Like,
Right.
you know, having done like kids products. And he was like, he told me, he was like, the most gender neutral color is yellow. And like, I made my desk yellow in the end as like a nod to that advice because yeah, I mean, I think yellow is sort of like
it's a playful color.
Yeah.
I like yellow. It's actually like, it's kind of my brand color. Like my business card is yellow. My old business card, my website has a yellow like link to it.
Yeah. I'm going to look up this guy's name really quick, but yeah, I don't know.
I've never been an Apple Watch guy. I've always been just a normal watch guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had Apple Watches in the past, but I just couldn't get into them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's so many other products that launched in the past 2 years that we missed.
Chuck Harrison. Yeah. He's designed like tons of stuff that you know from like a certain era of design, sort of like, I think sort of like 70s, 80s design.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's cool.
So.
Well, I think the one object that I'm excited for that's coming out is the new Meta headset, the new VR headset.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've been using my headset for like 3 years now, or sorry, maybe even longer, 4 years, 5 years. And yeah, it feels pretty outdated now.
Yeah.
I'm so ready for that new thing.
Kind of clunky.
Yeah. So we'll see what the Zuck does.
Has there been any leaks or anything of it?
Yeah, he's teased it. There's a few leaks.
There's like design leaks.
Yeah, I mean it looks more like ski goggles.
Oh.
It looks much lighter. There's a nose cutout because it's much thinner in the front. And apparently they have the new pancake lens system, so you know they gotta get rid of that bulk up front. I'm sure they have, you know, new sensors and new everything in it.
Where are they putting all the maple syrup?
What? Maple syrup?
Yeah, your pancake lenses.
Oh my gosh!
Come on, I'm a dad now, Nick.
I think we just lost a bunch of listeners right there.
Come on, we gained like 20,000.
Oh man, I didn't even get that joke. That's a good joke though.
Yeah.
And then you know the big thing, at least for me, is the mixed reality. I do a lot of that now, where I flip on the cameras so I can see the thing I'm designing in scale in the studio, and then even like, you know, build a little like mock chair, or like just get one of my chairs that I'm sitting around here, and like be able to sit in a chair that I gravity sketched.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not actually feel like it, but it's like it gives you the vibe of it. You know, that's a big thing.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we missed a ton of stuff. I mean, it's been 2 years, but
yeah,
you know, I think depending on, you know, the future of where we are in our careers, I think we're going to try to do a podcast maybe more regularly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now that I'm kind of finishing up my rebrand, I feel like now I can integrate the podcast back in to the business, and like it feels like I'm much more, it feels like it has more meaning now. And I mean, it's always had meaning, but it's always just like, we've always done it because it's just like fun to hang out and chat about design. And I think, I don't know, I would like to rebrand the podcast a little bit, keep the same name, but just like update the graphics a little bit. And make it more cohesive.
Yeah. But I think we should also, right before we go, I think we should mention and shout out like the big meetup that we had.
Oh, that was fun.
Like, I mean, that was a huge catalyst for getting us back into the studio, because we had like,
50 people?
It was like 50 people that showed up.
Yeah, in New York. That's crazy.
I like almost cried.
I thought it was going to be like 10.
I couldn't believe it. And I think some people I think it was like some students who had invited their classmates. So, I mean, not everybody there had intimate knowledge of the podcast, but it's still, it was, you know, a sizable turnout, and it felt just like, I don't know. It just felt great, and like really appreciate everybody who came out. And like, yeah, I feel like without that meetup, I don't know that we would be back here.
Yeah.
You know,
It definitely motivated us to like, oh, you know, people miss it, you know?
Yeah. So
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, maybe we'll do another one at some point in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
They're always fun
or
to do.
Quarterly.
Quarterly, yeah, we could do that. Cool, man. I don't know how long this podcast went. Maybe an hour 15, who knows? But I'm sure everyone enjoys it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as always, I'm Nick.
I'm James.
Peace out.
Later.